You're listening to the Mindset Advantage podcast with Elliot Rowe and Dr. Tricia Gardner.
So welcome to the show. It's good to be back. So Tricia, how are you doing?
Hey, it's great to talk to you again. You know, everything just got so busy after the World Series that it seems like, we haven't done shows in a while.
Yeah, we finally got back, and we'll try and get a bit more regular for you guys out there because we know you're all missing us so terribly. So this week we've got bparis coming on the show. He's an online player. He's actually got the second most online caches in history. So it's going to be good talking to him and seeing how he's managed to achieve that and his tips for you guys out there. So Tricia, what psychology news do you have for us this week?
There's a lot going on these days, Elliot, but I'll tell you what, I did pick a study that I just wanted to mention to people because it's something that you can do. It's so easy. It came out in the Journal of Brain Behavior and Immunity. And what they did was they looked at how much omega-3 supplements can reduce anxiety in just regular people. So not people who suffered from any sort of anxiety disorder, if that makes sense, but everybody has anxiety from time to time. So what they did was they got a bunch of medical students because medical students make the greatest guinea pigs of all time. And they divided them into groups with half of them taking an omega-3 supplement and the other half taking a placebo. Now, in this particular sample, they also drew blood and they were looking at the different types of pro-inflammatory cytokines, they're called. And so they were able to measure how much those reduced, as well as, you know, along with the anxiety itself, perceived anxiety. So the good news was just taking an omega-3 supplement, which you can get at any pharmacy. It doesn't require, you know, a prescription or anything. It reduced anxiety on average 20%. And then those inflammatory substances also reduced by like 14%. So what this all means is you can decrease your anxiety and you can decrease generally inflammation. And inflammation is associated with things like heart disease, stroke, cancer. So you're getting kind of a 2-for-1. But I thought it was a pretty neat study since it was done with people not suffering from an anxiety disorder. And if you reduce that anxiety, you're going to sleep better at night. Hopefully you're going to be more focused and you're going to play better.
Yeah, well, it makes me feel better about my excessively overpriced omega-3s I eat. So perhaps they're not overpriced. Perhaps they're worth every penny.
It's very interesting because in this study, the authors didn't go so far as to say everybody should take a supplement. They said, oh, well, basically you should just, you know, try and get more in your diet. But from my perspective, I feel like supplementing is the way to go because I think it's hard to get the ideal amount of omega-3s in your diet, just, you know, but through food use alone.
Yeah, and when you're looking at the supplements as well, I've read quite a few articles online regarding the quality of fish oil tablets. So sometimes it is worth paying a bit more for those because
absolutely.
There's a few horror stories out there. Okay, so let's give Bryan a ring and see what he has to say. So Bryan, thanks for coming on the show. If you could introduce yourself to our listeners.
Yeah, sure. So my name is bparis. I've been playing poker professionally for about 10 years now. I'm the number 2 all-time in caches for online MTTs behind Chris Moorman. I got my start right out of college at age 21 or so. And I started off playing sit and goes back, you know, before Black Friday when everything was very easy. I graduated from UC Irvine in 2006. I had a job for 2 or 3 months, and then I quit to play full-time pretty quickly. I was making a lot of money playing poker. So I gradually transitioned into MTTs from sit and goes. And, you know, but during the years before Black Friday, I gradually, you know, moved up in stakes until right around the time Black Friday hit, I was playing the highest stakes online and doing very well at it. Black Friday hit in mid-2011, and it kind of threw me a curveball, forced me and my fiance at the time to move abroad. So we first relocated to Canada for 6 months. We couldn't stay for longer than that. It was kind of hard to get residency. So then we actually wound up going to Amsterdam, which is a place that we'd always been visiting for a long time, even before Black Friday happened. So we moved to Amsterdam in 2013, and I've been living here ever since, going around the European poker tour and playing online from here. So I was just playing online. I didn't really have any other major ventures going. I was doing some coaching, a little bit of backing on the side. But then recently I started doing Twitch, maybe 2 or 3 months ago. And so that's sort of been my focus since then. The Twitch stream is growing pretty nicely. I'm frequently, in the top 2 or 3 each night when I'm playing. Sometimes I hit the number 1 slot in the poker directory. But I think my eventual goal is to kind of, spread the awareness of online poker back to, America. And hopefully we can get more people into the game. And the more people we have watching online poker on Twitch, the more people we'll have who want to re-legalize it. And so, yeah, my eventual goal is to sort of help build the growth of popularity in poker, kind of tie it into the esports thing. Yeah. And then maybe, if a few more states legalize it, eventually I can move back home.
So that's kind of the ultimate goal, you think, would be to move back to the United States and hopefully play online poker at the levels you currently do?
Well, yeah, I think in the longer term, that would be nice. We just had our first son 2.5 months ago, my wife and I. So, living abroad with him has been really easy so far. But once we get him a little bit older, like school age, it would be nice to be closer to family. We'd also like to have additional children at some point. So, having multiples, I think it really helps to be around family. But for now, we're happy traveling around Europe. We're currently in the Netherlands until the end of this year, at least. We might get an extension, or if not, we might relocate to somewhere else in Europe, like Czech Republic. But eventually I would like to move back home. It would be nice.
That's very cool. And one of the things that I've had a lot of players ask regarding when you have a child and poker, do you feel it's something that makes it harder because of the sleep, or is it something that there's this new level of motivation for success in the game? So actually, having your first child is actually pushing you for more success. How do you feel about it from that side?
For me, it's the second one for sure. There's definitely an element of sleep deprivation. But I'm very fortunate in that my wife stays home to take care of him full time. So she's really been, picking up a lot of the slack in that regard, like as far as waking up in the middle of the night to take care of him. Obviously I still pitch in quite a bit. We both get to stay home with him, which is really nice. I think it's been really great for us to, spend a lot of time with him. But for me, it's been almost entirely motivational. I started the Twitch stream like right before he was born. I've sort of got a lot more serious about studying and about focus and everything like that since he was born. So I think it's sort of kind of helped my mindset go into a higher level. And I think it's going to be a net positive for me.
Speaking of mindset, when was it in your career, because you've been around a long time and you've kind of seen everything in poker, when was it in your career that you kind of thought, you know what, I really need to put more focus on the mental game and mindset?
I think about a year ago. It took me until then. Before that, it was just very easy. I just kind of coasted to success up until I'd say the end of 2013, maybe the first half of 2014. I didn't have to work very hard. The games were a lot softer. I was ahead of the curve without trying too much. And then, between 2014 and 15, I started to have a sort of prolonged downswing online. And I was kind of just playing the same games. I wasn't really focusing on game selection that much. I wasn't really studying as much as I needed to be. So I really started to take a focus on mindset around then. So I did some research into mindset gurus outside of poker, like Tony Robbins and those type of people. So I've been trying to apply that sort of advice into my poker game, and I think it's been very helpful. It's really amazing once you start thinking about mindset and thinking about the mental game away from the table, how much it can actually affect your performance. And it's something that I definitely was not focused on enough until relatively recently.
And that's one of the things with the sort of where you're at in terms of your career. A lot of the guys who were playing with when you were and having that easy success, they've really struggled to do that study and then continue winning in the games. I mean, is that something you feel has been a strength of yours, to be able to just move throughout the years and sort of still progress?
Yeah, I think my biggest strength is just tenacity, sort of, because when poker was banned in America, instead of thinking like, oh, I'm going to do something different, I just immediately thought, I'm going to find a way to relocate, and I'm going to relocate my family, and, we're going to just make this work. So when I started losing, rather than thinking, oh, maybe I should transition to something else, it just sort of inspired me to double down and get back into the studying, because I always have considered myself to be one of the best tournament players. So when I started seeing the results coming in that was no longer the case, it was really a huge motivation for me to just get back on the study grind.
And you kind of made a little passing remark that I kind of want to go back to about off-table things really affecting on-table things. Can you kind of say more about, what you've kind of learned about that or picked up?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the big things is just sort of approaching each day with the mindset that you're going to do your very best and you're going to, play your A game and crush every single day. Because before I was more of a volume guy. When I was having my downswing in 2014 and 15, I would just be playing like 12 or 14 tables. I would play, 6 days a week. I was just playing way too much and not taking enough time to kind of like recharge my mental batteries and approach the game with a fresh new perspective every day. So I think that's been very important for me to sort of realize just how big of a difference that makes and kind of focus on quality over quantity.
And is that something that you think again was sort of from the era? I mean, was there a time in your career where the volume, in reality, that was the key because the games were so soft that all you needed to do was open another table to make more money?
Right. Yeah. For example, the best stretch of my career was in early 2011, and I don't know how many people remember this, but back then, Full Tilt was running these double guarantee weeks and triple guarantee weeks, and what that was every tournament you could enter 4 times. So you would actually have 4 tables open simultaneously in the same tournament for each tournament. So during that week, basically, you could have as many tables as you wanted. And I was just 24 tabling consistently the entire time and just like crushing. So that's kind of the experience that I used to have. And I think it took me too long to transition away from that model as the game started to get tougher and as things started to dry up a little bit. But yeah, like that was definitely my pre-Black Friday experience was just, the more tables you play, the more money you make. And it was really just that simple.
Now, you have had some success in the live arena, even though that's not really, where your focus seems to have been. But can you talk a little bit about the differences between live and online, particularly around the mindset?
I think the biggest difference between live and online is just how slow the game is live. I think that took me a long time to get used to because I'd be playing live and, I'm used to playing online with 12, 16, 20 tables, just making decisions constantly. So, live frequently you're just folding for an orbit and a half or whatever, and it takes 45 minutes and it feels like you've been folding for ages. And you sit there and you see these people making mistakes and you're like, oh, I need to get in there and get their chips before somebody else does. So it took me a while to get away from that mindset and sort of get into a more like patient stretch as far as live went. Another thing that took me a long time to conquer live, I think, was just, I don't know, like if you kind of, when you first start playing live, you kind of have this fear that people can just tell when you're bluffing. So you don't bluff enough. At least that was my experience early on. Mm-hmm. And so once I got my feet under me live, I definitely got more confident about that. I started to realize that I, wasn't giving things away. I was, regulating my movements better. So once I developed that confidence and the ability to bluff in big spots, that definitely helped my live game quite a bit. But yeah, I'd say the biggest difference was just the level of patience, because at first I would be very impatient when I played live because I'm a pretty fundamentally tight, solid player, but I'd go play live and I'd try to do all sorts of, crazy moves and stuff. And it was just counterproductive for a while. I think the time that my live game really clicked for me was the main event in 2012. I came into that tournament very hungry and focused. All of my money had been frozen on Black Friday on Full Tilt Poker. So I was kind of short on bankroll. And I kept most of my action in the tournament because, I figured it's the main event. It's, one of the times of the year that you want to really just make a big run. It's like a really big, it's a great opportunity to have life-changing money, basically. So I came into that tournament with a really big level of focus. I played very well. I was really focused and soul reading people and just doing all sorts of, moves at the right time. I wound up busting on day 5. But I was definitely very happy with the way I played that tournament. And that was right before I went to Europe to play the European Poker Tour. So I think that tournament was sort of a major breakthrough moment for me. Since then, I've had, I believe, 5 final tables and a win live. And I've played, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 EPT stops since then. So before that, I didn't have much success. But after that, I've done pretty well.
That's amazing how like everything can just click into place. And then all of a sudden, you're getting, that's a very good results. Obviously it's a short sample, or small sample rather, but that's really great for you.
Yeah, it was, I don't know. I just felt something click inside my head for that tournament. And I was just really focused. I would like give everyone the hardcore stare down during hands and I would pick up a lot on them. And I just had this confidence level that was like, okay, I can tell what people have. And it sort of was a self-fulfilling prophecy because I was just so focused and locked in that I played that tournament very well. And yeah, since then I've just had a much better rhythm when I play live. I'm patient. I'm better at reading people. I'm pretty confident in my live game now. I still don't play live as much as I would like, especially now that the baby's been born. It's harder to travel. Right. But I'm happy with my live results since then for sure.
And in terms of the actual enjoyment between the two, is it that they're just different, or is one a lot more fun than the other for you?
I'd say whichever one you haven't been doing recently is fun. Like for example, if you've been playing online a bunch and then you go play live, it's a really interesting experience. It's a completely different game. And, it kind of clicks in your brain in a different way. I think it sort of expands like the neurons that you're using to play both live and online. So I definitely like to mix it up when I can.
It definitely uses different neural circuitry in some cases. So I think you're absolutely right on the money with that.
Right.
Now, I want to ask you a question because I know you do a little bit of coaching. So, somebody, let's say they're coming into the game right now, maybe they understand the rudiments or whatever, the basics. How do they kind of improve? What would be your best advice to them?
The most important thing to do is to just study theory inside and out until you've sort of established a solid theoretical framework for analyzing different spots. Because a lot of people, when they learn the game, they sort of learn anecdotally, meaning like they know what they do in this spot generally, but they don't really know why. And I think now more than ever, it's important to really learn the game theory behind everything, and like how you want to balance your value combos versus your bluff combos, all of that like very fundamental stuff. I think it's really important to just learn how to think, and then once you've learned that, then you can sort of grow your game from there and apply that sort of thinking to all the different spots that arise.
It's very interesting that you say that, because I have heard other people on the show talk as well about that. But I think the holdup that I see with people is that they just don't know what to do. Like, they hear you say that, but then they don't know like what books to read, which I think books are probably not the way to go, but what videos to watch, that kind of thing. So do you have any like hints on that?
Well, I think that there's a few good coaching sites out there. One of the sites that's really good is Upswing Poker. They have a great like beginning player series. Doug Polk has done most of the work on that himself, and obviously he's one of the best minds in the game. And he does a really good job of like breaking down why you do what you do. I think Run It Once is also a great resource as far as slightly more advanced videos go. As on top of that, there's a lot of game theory software out there now. When it takes some time to learn, you have to have someone walk you through it. But Flopzilla is pretty good as far as analyzing like what type of hand categories people will have on certain boards based on their pre-flop ranges. Equilab is a good one just for learning the more basic things about like what a range has as far as equity versus another range. If you want to get more advanced, there's PIO Solver, which is like a game theory solving program. It'll tell you like what each player should do in a certain type of spot, given the certain stack sizes and different bet sizing options. Card Runners EV is another good one if you want to go a little bit more in depth as far as hands and ranges and stuff. But yeah, I think it's very important to learn how to use programs. And so the best way to learn poker theory, I think, is to just have someone sort of walk you through the different programs that you can use, and then just explain to you like how the game theory works and like what you're looking to improve on. It's not really easy to establish that framework, but I think that starting from that will really give you a huge leg up on just being able to analyze each spot yourself and having the right tools to approach hand analysis.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. And you just gave like a lot of really good places where people can go. And now they just have to get in there and do it.
Yeah, no excuses, everyone.
That's the hard part, is getting in there and doing it, right? But it really helps to have someone walk you through it and, stay on top of you as far as studying frequently and like, helping you walk through different spots, like how you structure your different ranges and why. So I think everyone of all levels like needs a coach, or at least someone who they talk strategy with, just so they can try to help, keep thinking about different things and keep expanding your framework so that you can use it to analyze more spots that come up.
And then in terms of the Twitch, how do you see that as an educational tool for players? I hear a lot of players say, well, I'm watching players on Twitch. That's the study I'm doing. Where does that fit into the matrix of study, do you think?
I think watching players on Twitch is great as far as like just getting your feet wet in the game. You can just see how professionals approach spots, the sort of things that they talk through as spots arise, just like their general ranges, pre-flop, that sort of thing. I don't think that Twitch is going to teach you, like how to use different programs and how to structure like a really robust theoretical framework. But I do think that Twitch is a fantastic way for sort of casual players who are just understanding like what poker is and how it works. I think it's a fantastic way for them to watch a professional approach the game and just see the way that they approach different spots and how they walk through, the different scenarios that arise.
I think you're absolutely right on that, because, watching somebody play, you've kind of alluded to it a couple times. Like, it may give you like this general anecdotal idea, but it's not going to, take you really deep, and it's not going to help you build your neural network. So then when you get into spots, you're not going to know what to do. So right. People need to go from Twitch to some of these other things that you resourced, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. But Twitch is a great way to get people immersed in poker. So, if you just have no clue how poker works, you don't even know where to start, I would suggest just watching a bunch of Twitch streams and seeing if it's something that you would enjoy. and just kind of getting an idea of how the game functions, how the chips flow, like what sort of ranges people use, just the very basic stuff. I think Twitch is a fantastic tool for introducing more people, that sort of thing.
Oh, definitely. And from the other side of things, how do you feel being on the other side of Twitch and talking to people and knowing that people are watching how you're playing hands? How's that impacted your game as you've been playing?
Well, it's always a tough balance for me to know how in depth I want to get on the strategy. Because, sometimes I'll have a tendency to like look at a spot and I'll just start talking through all my ranges. And then I realize that like multiple people at the table probably have my stream up. So I don't want to go too in depth. Also, like a lot of my audience is more on the beginner level. So I try to keep my analysis closer to like level 0 or level 1 analysis when I can. But I think it's helped me, sort of like enunciating your thought processes in real time forces you to be more logical about everything and like evaluate things through the proper framework rather than letting emotions take over. Having people watch also kind of holds you to a higher standard. You're more inclined to play your A game at all times. You never want to just like phone it in. So I think for me, it's been a good tool as far as focus. I do think that I've given away some of my game for sure, but that's why I try to just make a conscious effort to keep the strategy at more of a basic level. And I think that's better for the audience as well, because more people, like I said, my goal with Twitch is to get more people into the game. It's not to like bring the decent regs up to being great regs.
Now, you kind of mentioned commentating. You're getting a little bit more into that nowadays, aren't you?
Yeah, I had a lot of fun commentating the 100K final table. I was going to do the 10K final table last night, but then Doug decided to get top 3 in it, and he was live streaming it. So I figured I might as well not even bother. People are going to watch the guy who's still in the tournament over the guy who's commentating it. But I do plan on doing commentary for the 5K final table, unless I'm at it, of course. That would be nice. But I would love to get into commentary more going forward. I think that's one of the reasons I started Twitch, is because I do think that I have more to offer to the poker community than just my playing ability. I think I'd be, good at doing commentary on like big final tables. So I would like to move into that eventually.
Awesome. And have you done other things in poker as well? So, have you ever worked within a stable or had your own stable, or have you done sort of full-time coaching? What other things have you done in the industry?
Well, I did have my own stable for a while. I was only backing, 2 to 4 people at the most. That was mostly before Black Friday. After Black Friday, I kept doing backing like a bit more sporadically for a couple of years, but it just became too much for me eventually. And I think, with something like backing, you either want to go 110% or you just don't want to do it at all. If you're going to not like dedicate a ton of time to working with your horses and keeping them on top of the strategic curve, you're better off just not doing it. I've done a decent amount of coaching, both for a stable and on my own. And I think that coaching helps me sort of enunciate my own thought processes on my off days. So it's kind of beneficial for me on top of the money, just to walk through strategy with players who are trying to learn more. And I can kind of explain, my thought processes to them. And in doing so, it sort of reinforces the thought processes for me as well. So I've definitely had a lot of fun, and I've had a lot of success doing coaching. That's something I want to get back into a little bit more now that I have the Twitch stream up. I do intend on doing a decent amount of coaching per month going forward. So that's something I'd like to get back on. I sort of put it on the back burner when Alex was born and when I started the Twitch stream 3 months ago. But yeah, I'm definitely a big fan of doing coaching.
How important do you think it is for professional poker players to keep these multiple streams of income? And is it something that you're thinking more about now that, of course, you have a family?
Yes, it's definitely something I'm thinking more about. And I think it is important because tournaments are just inherently very high variance. Even if you have a great ROI, if you apply, like there's variance calculators out there and you can mess around with the numbers. But the bottom line is that it's really difficult to overestimate the amount of variance there is in tournaments, especially relative to something like cash games. So I do think it's important to have other income streams just so that you can feel like you're still accomplishing something during the many months of dry spells that you'll have playing tournaments. Mm-hmm. Also, now that I have a family, I don't want to work as hard going forward. So it would be nice to have more passive income streams. Like, for example, I do plan on writing a book about tournament strategy at some point within the next year. I'm going to keep growing the Twitch stream. Like I said, I want to get into commentary. So yeah, I'm just sort of trying to move around and do a few different ventures now that I'm getting a little bit older and I have a family.
And how much do we need to win to catch up with Chris? How far off are you?
I'm pretty far off, actually. Chris, I think I'm at 9.6 million or something. I'm going to double check that real fast. But Chris has like 13.5 million. So I'm pretty far from him. and he's still quite active. He plays a lot. I think he might even be playing more than I am right now. So he's not going to be easy to catch. If I catch him, I'll be pretty proud of myself. Yeah, I'm at 9.66 million. And I believe he's around 13.5.
Wow. Do you find that motivating to kind of see his number and try and overtake him?
It was definitely motivational to get to number 2 because, I think a year or two ago I was like number 10 maybe. And this past year or two, I've been focusing on online while a lot of the guys who, got a big head start in the standings have sort of moved into playing live or not playing online full time, as the games have kind of gotten worse. But rocketing up the leaderboard all the way to number 2 is definitely very motivational for me. It's a bit daunting to see just how far off I am from Chris, but maybe I'll catch him eventually. I don't know. We'll see. I'm pretty happy with the number 2 spot for now.
It would be a real solid year as well, wouldn't it? So
yeah, I'd have to have like a Fedor style run to catch him.
It happens.
I don't want to. I don't want to put too much pressure on you, but pretty much Fedor, he's come on our show and then he wins big. And
I heard about that. Yeah,
it's true.
That's where his run started, right? Was coming on the show, and then he, he's cashed like $15 million or something since then.
Yeah, and Bryan Rast, right? Bryan Rast, same thing. I mean, although he was winning big before he was on the show, but he came on our show, Elliot, not once, but twice. And
before the Super High Rollerball. Yeah, so he's done okay.
Yeah, he's done all right. Those are some pretty good footsteps to follow in if I can manage to do it.
I'm just saying, like, you've come on our show now. The heat is on.
Yeah, no excuses.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a good motivation, And even if that doesn't actually affect anything, if I believe that it affects something, the placebo effect will, improve my performance anyway. So let's just assume that that's going to do it.
We certainly can't promise results. And in terms of the sort of the most extreme tilt and things that you've seen through your career, either at the live table or with people you've known online, what's the sort of the most sort of extreme things of tilt that you've seen?
Well, I think for me personally, it was around Black Friday when because I had a lot of money tied up on full tilt poker, and so I kind of went from being on top of the world. I was doing very well when Black Friday hit. And most of my money was on full tilt and ultimate bet. And so I just lost a bunch of that money. And then another big pile of it got frozen. And after that kind of sent me into a tailspin for a while. My mindset was pretty bad. It took me a while to adjust to sort of the new reality. So that was the most tilting that I've ever been. I've been around friends who have had kind of negative mindsets as well. And I've noticed the way it affects their performance. If you just go into poker with the negative assumption of like, oh, I'm going to get screwed, then you're going to play passively. You're not going to take the right spots. Things are going to blow up in your face. If you believe that things are going to go badly, then things are going to go badly. It's really just that simple. So I think that seeing some of the post Black Friday fallout really helped me realize the importance of mindset and avoiding tilt.
Yeah, it's super interesting too that the company you keep plays a big role in your mindset. So if you're around negative people, you'll tend to be negative. If you're around,
absolutely,
more positive people. Yeah, super. Now, where can people go to find out more about you and check out this Twitch stream and everything?
Well, I'm bparis poker on all social media and on Twitch. I'm most active on Twitter and Instagram, but I also have a Facebook fan page, facebook.com/bparis poker, and then I'm also bparis poker on both Twitch and Instagram and Twitter. So I'm streaming on Twitch 4 or 5 nights a week, usually from around 2 p.m. Eastern until I'm done with the session, which is like 6 to 8 hours. And I'll be putting in maybe like 5K worth of buy-ins on weekdays and 10K worth of buy-ins on Sundays. So it's pretty high stakes relative to, during WCoop, it's not the highest stakes stream, but most of the year it is one of the higher stakes streams online. So just check out the Twitch stream. That's probably the best way to, check out what I'm doing. I also have my own website with a Twitch, frequently asked questions thing at bparispoker.com.
And what we'll do is we'll put links to all of that on the podcast page for you. So anyone who's listening to this, all of the links will be there. If you want to check out Bryan playing on Twitch, just click through on one of those.
Yeah, sweet.
So Bryan, thank you so much for coming on the show. Good luck with the rest of WCoop and the twitching and things. And everyone out there, if you can look Bryan up and check him out.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Hopefully this is the start of a Fedor-style run.
No excuses. Cheers, Bryan. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
So great stuff from Bryan there. It's certainly quite the career he's had, isn't it?
It's amazing because he's been around, he's seen it all. So he was in the game when it was really easy. He went through Black Friday, Then it sounds like, even moving, it was still pretty easy online until the last couple of years when it's gotten really hard and he's had to transition. So he just has a wealth of experience and knowledge.
Yeah, and I mean, I think one of the things people should really bear in mind, if you're listening to this, is the way he was describing to study the game.
Mm-hmm.
So, really breaking things down and using that software that is available that does actually solve quite a lot of poker now. So, you need to make those investments.
While on the one hand, I don't want people to do it because when I'm playing, I like it to be easy and against unknowledgeable people. But on the other hand, as a psychology person, I do want people to improve. So I found what he said was absolutely true, that most people get to a level where they have somewhat of an understanding of how you play this hand or this position or that position, but they don't really have that strong theoretical underpinning. And if you don't have that, you're just going to plateau and you're going to get stuck. And I think that's going to be frustrating for people.
Yeah, and it's sort of something where when you've done that work, you then know how to learn. So that can then help you get to that next level. So yeah, good luck, guys out there doing all your homework this week. So Tricia, where can people find you?
You can check me out on my website, drtriciacardner.com, or you can follow me on Twitter, also Dr. Tricia Cardner. And hey, by the way, I have a brand new book out called Peak Poker Performance, which the people who are reading it are saying it's amazing. And it's got a lot of exercises and activities. So check that out on Amazon.com if you're interested in learning to attain peak poker performance.
Yeah, so go buy Tricia's book. And if you're interested in my MP3s or my coaching sessions, go to pokermindcoach.com. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye, guys.
You've been listening to the Mindset Advantage podcast with Elliot Rowe and Dr. Tricia Cardner. To get any resources mentioned in the episode or to listen to past shows, visit pokermindcoach.com/TMA podcast. Thanks for listening.